Hello!
Hi.
Welcome to Friday with Friends. Friday with Friends is our opportunity to talk about what's going on in the market, answer any questions you might have, so that if you have any real estate needs, we would love the opportunity to be your realtor of choice.
Yes, so we are into 2021. If you saw our last episode, we did New Year, New Home Sellers Edition. Well, we know you've all been waiting for New Year, New Home Buyers Edition. So if you have buying a home on your to-do list in 2021, we are here to chat with you about what you need to do to make that happen.
Yeah, so last episode, what we did, which we have gotten awesome feedback on, is we created a downloadable for you. So what we're going to be talking about today is all in our link below, so that you can click that and you can download what we're going to be talking about, because we're going to take you step by step on what needs to be on your radar. It's going to be really helpful, make the process so much easier, and we found our clients love it when we take them down this path that will help you be successful when you are buying your new home in 2020.
Yep.
And if you do have a house to sell, make sure you tune into that. You can find it on our website, you can find it on our YouTube channel, you can find it on our page, you can find it anywhere. Heck, if you want to just message us, we can bring you down that
We
too.
can send it too.
But we're doing them separate because there are really unique situations that come up with both.
Perfect. And yep, we are here to break it down. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm buying my first home, it's so overwhelming, what do I do? Where do I start? This really breaks it down into tactical items that we can check off our list to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. And really, instead of having it be big and overwhelming, we can break it down for you.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, so what do we start with? Abby, what is step number one?
So step number one is connect with your realtor. Give us a call, send us a message, Facebook, Instagram, all the places.
We're
we
everywhere.
are here. Let's connect. We also have a previous Friday with Friends episode on how to interview a realtor. So if you're thinking about talking to a few different people, definitely check that out. But we always like to start, sit down or virtually over the phone, FaceTime, Skype, in person, to create a game plan and really have an initial meeting where we can chat through and make a game plan together.
And sometimes people are saying, oh, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. Sometimes the initial conversation is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, when should I do this? When do you want to have our formal consultation? When do you want to be talking about this? Sometimes it's not this big grandiose thing. So when we talk to buyers, sometimes they've expressed they're a little nervous, being like, oh, I don't know if I should reach out. Yes, you should.
Reach out, yes.
It's never too early to start that conversation. And we're going to go through all the things that we do early on that is going to set you up so that when you are ready, you're ready to go.
Yeah. I would say our clients that feel the most comfortable and less stressed and all of that are the ones that start early. Even if you're like, I'm 6 months out, I don't need to start. It's like when I bought my wedding dress, they were like, it'll come in 6 months. I'm like, 6 months? You never know how long the process is going to take. So start a little bit earlier, even if you're far out, to really create that game plan so you're not feeling pressured once you get close to your ideal time that you'd like to purchase a home.
Yes.
So step one, connect with your realtor. If you have a house to sell, if you're thinking about interviewing realtors, definitely check out some of our previous Friday with Friends episodes to make sure that you're connected with the right agent.
Yes, and we will put that in the bit.ly link in the download as well if you want to find that one there.
Perfect. So that was step one.
Step two is connect with a financial institution, a bank, wherever you want to be getting your mortgage. Now, you might be cash. You might be in a situation where you have the cash. Make sure you're talking to your financial advisor in that situation to say, here's my plan. Will this work? Is it liquid? What do I need to do? Do I need to move anything around? Making sure that you're having that conversation if you're cash. If you are going through a bank, this is the time where you're having a conversation and you can get pre-approved. Yes. What pre-approved is sometimes, well, I want to interview a couple different banks. You could make one phone call and it'll probably take you, 10, 15 minutes? And you can have a local lender reach out to you to talk about your debt to income ratio, to talk about what you can afford. And that's going to be incredibly helpful when we start to go down this path, is starting that conversation.
Yep. And if you say, gosh, I bank with this bank, but I'm not sure that they're the right fit for my mortgage, let us know. We have people that we can connect you with, local lenders that we have had great experiences with. If a friend of yours purchased a home and had a great experience, check with them, see who they used. Hey, maybe it'll be the same person, and then you know that it's
that
a
actually
really good
happens
fit.
often.
Yeah, then you know it's a really good fit. We do work with awesome people that have just given terrific experiences and get back to you quickly. That's always something to consider. So make sure that when you're talking with them, you feel like it's a good fit, but really start that process, because then this is what I feel comfortable with. And again, starting the process early. Let's say you get pre-approved and you didn't know that your credit score was where, wasn't where you wanted it to be.
Yes.
Maybe you didn't know that your debt to income ratio wasn't where you wanted to be. If you want to buy a house next month, that gives you 1 month to make those changes, which might not be possible. If you want to buy in 6 months, now you're prepared to pay down the credit card debt, pay off the car, consolidate, whatever you need to do. We're not financial experts.
Yeah.
Those all sound about right. But
They sound like great words.
But get the ball rolling on those so you then have 6 months to do it instead of a few weeks.
Yes, and it's also important that you're starting, if you're self-employed, so we're 1099s.
Good point.
You might need to say, I need to get this paperwork together. Like paperwork, like sometimes you have to do all of these pieces. If you have commissions, you have to have a certain amount of months that you're showing commission. So starting that conversation with the bank is so important. The other key thing that we like to talk about with the bank, especially in this market right now, is that you're pushing your boundaries. You know what it's like in terms of, you know how to push your boundaries, and you know your boundaries right away. The reason this is key is because we'll have a client who is contingent. So that means they have to sell their house in order to purchase their next house. And they're like, nope, there's no other way I can do it. Well, what the conversation we like to have is we'll talk to your lender, look at your money, look at your budget, start to really identify, can you? What happens if your dream house comes up and the price is perfect, it's going to make sense for your family, but because you can't go non-contingent, you've lost out on that house. But what you're like, well, maybe I could. I don't know if I can. Discover that right now. That is why we're saying talk to the bank, look at your numbers right now so that you're pushing yourself out of your boundaries right away. There's no question. If this house is this much, I can buy it. Or let's say you have to go up higher than you wanted to. You had to go over asking. These are the conversations I want to push you now so that the market doesn't push you when you're emotional and when there's not a lot of time to think and do all of that research. So the bank, that first piece, again, this doesn't have to be the final person that you're working with the entire time. This is the initial conversation to get the process started and to start asking these questions.
Yep. We typically see that, starting with that initial conversation, getting the pre-approval letter, understanding your numbers, having that solidified, and then you can start to kind of ask around, compare rates, compare fees, things like that. But you do not need to interview then choose, I guess is the good point there. Go get that pre-approval letter, and then we can kind of discuss other options to make sure it's a good fit.
Yes.
But pushing the boundaries is so important. So just starting those conversations, starting the what if conversations. So if they pop up in real life, real time, you're ready to go.
And we don't want to push your boundary. I want to make sure that I'm saying that right.
Yes.
We don't want to be the ones saying, go higher, go over asking, to go non-contingent. We don't want to be the ones to do that for you. If anything, we're like saying, no, we're good, because we really want to make sure that it's not an emotional thing driving you. But the reason we say push your boundaries now is so that you really know that hard line. When you fall in love with a house, when the emotions come into it, you might not be thinking as clearly. So when we can do that now, when we could push the boundaries in this way, I feel it makes it so that we're not going to be pushing the boundaries when it actually really, really matters.
Right. And this is my top. I can't go anything above this. And then it's black and white, and you take the emotions.
You might even have to write it out, stick it to your fridge so that if the situation comes up, you're like, no, this is what I said.
I know, I'm already pushing my boundaries. That's too far. And you're, feeling really confident about that for sure.
So that's number 2.
All right, perfect. Number 3 is review your timeline. So this is really important when it comes to buying a home, because you might own a home. Again, check out our last Friday with Friends episode on New Year, New Home Sellers Edition. You might own a home. You might live with in-laws, family, parents, friends. You might be renting. You might be moving into the area. Figure out what your timeline is, and let's create a game plan for you based on that. If you're renting, what is your lease agreement? Can you break it? Answering all of those questions to really help identify a timeline and working backwards.
Yes, and we have a lot of people that, maybe their job situation changed, whether it be they changed jobs, they lost their job, or they can work from anywhere. So where they need to be as often changes. And so all of those things are going to impact, maybe school changed, anything. It's going to impact when you have to purchase this house. Yep. And when we start learning more about your timeline, it can help us create that best game plan for you.
And also something to consider is, and we always talk about working backwards. So let's say we want to be in by March, for example. That's a bad example because we're in for January. Let's say, June, for example. You want to be in your dream house by June, so you can spend the summer there, right? we want to work backwards that a standard closing is typically about 2 months. So that would be April. We need to be under contract with our house by April timeframe. Now, let's say you're looking for a home in maybe North Winton Village and lots of houses are popping up there every few days, right? You know, okay, I should probably find my house within the next few weeks. Maybe we could start in, February timeframe. Now, if you're looking for something really unique, maybe a farm, you're very specific on school district and neighborhood, and it might only pop up a few every year. We need to know what you're looking for to help with your timeline too. So that's going to be number 4, but that's really important. If you're looking for something unique and you're ready to move in the next few years, we need to start now, because it might only pop up one in the next few years because the inventory of houses is low anyways. If your search criteria is really specific, that can impact it as well.
Great point.
Really thinking and helping us make a game plan for you to make sure that you're ready once the right house pops up.
Mm-hmm. So review your timeline, number 3. And that was a great segue to number 4. Go right into it.
Solidify your criteria. So this is really important because of course we want to find your dream house. We need to know what you're looking for. So the first thing we're going to start with is, what are your wants? What are your needs? A lot of people's wants are going to be size and location. A lot of people need a specific square footage, and a location is typically a top priority for people.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll get into kind of the fun pieces. Well, what do you want your kitchen to look like?
Ooh.
What rooms are important? We have people who say, oh, my dining room's really important. And then they're like, well, I don't really host Thanksgiving, so maybe I'd rather have that square footage in your office. You start to think about what are your needs versus your wants. Need is 2 full baths, or you're like, I could actually compromise on that.
Yeah.
And again, in the same way we did with the banks, in your finances, we again want to push your boundaries in terms of criteria. We push your boundaries early on so that the market doesn't do it for you. We push your boundaries in the way to be able to say, okay, I understand that you want 4 beds and 2.5 baths, but what if it had 3 beds and 2.5 baths, but had the most amazing view and had this extra little office space? How would that work for you? For you to say, that could work, or for you to say, nope, deal breaker, I don't even want to look at the house. Yeah. You're going to start to be able to see it because, again, when inventory is low, you're not out there saying, I'm going to wait for that perfect house to come up. If you want to buy in the next year, you're probably going to have to be very realistic about what you're willing to compromise on. And I'm not saying everyone has to compromise. You could not compromise, but it'll create some challenges and might have a little bit more resistance when you're in the market. So criteria is so important in terms of wants, needs, and getting really, really clear on them so you're not in an emotional situation when you are actually experiencing going through that house.
And what we like to know is, a lot of times someone will say, well, I need a 2-car garage. And we say, well, what if there was a 1-car garage, but maybe with room to add on? And people say oh yeah, I'd look at that. And so we really want to give you show you and provide you with as many houses as possible, and then allow you to say, it's just not the one because of A, B, and C. So it's really important that we solidify that criteria and identify these are our wants, these are our needs, and really start making a game plan on houses to, eventually look at in the future.
Yes, you see how much work can be done before we're even starting the process?
We're not even looking at houses yet.
We're not even looking at houses yet. And again, if you are just tuning in, know that we have a downloadable that you can have. It's in our comments where we're going through each of these step by step so that you can follow along.
Yep, so if you're just tuning in, you can definitely start from the beginning and join us, or feel free to just download that and you'll get all the info.
Love it. Okay, number 5. The 5th step that we recommend as we're kind of going through here is educate yourself on the market. So you've gotten clear on your finances, you've gotten clear on your criteria. Now you're starting to say, kind of what Abby was alluding to is, how easy is it going to be for me to find this property?
Right.
How many houses typically get listed each month that might meet my criteria? And you can start to learn a little bit more about how much activity is on, like showings. If I were to say before we started to do delayed negotiations, now 2 episodes ago, Fridays with Friends, we did a delayed negotiations conversation, which is essentially that a seller will list their house and then they will wait to have all of the showings happen. And it's not a situation where the first showing writes the offer and then they have to respond to that offer. It's delayed negotiations so that there's more time. The benefit of that is you can start to learn as a buyer, if a house gets listed today at 9 a.m., do I need to go out on lunch? Do I need to get off of work? Or is it a situation where there's probably going to be delayed negotiations and I can see it tonight after Johnny's baseball game or whatever? So that's what we mean when we talk about educate yourself on the market specific to your criteria.
Yep. And if you are looking for something a little bit more unique, again, maybe a unique specific neighborhood, unique layout, lot size, things like that, you might also really need to jump into going back to that timeline. Okay, on average, 3 houses are coming up a year that I'm interested in. You need to start in a year so then you have those 3 options, because that's really, really important to know. When do I start my timeline? Educate myself on how many houses are coming up in that neighborhood. Also, not only how is the activity, how is the showing, but how often are there multiple offers?
Yes.
How often are buyers using escalation clauses where the price is going up, and over? We really need to look at those details so you can prepare yourself. Again, going back to the finance piece. Am I going to need to prepare to maybe look at houses that are a little bit lower in my budget so I have the wiggle room to go up and offer more if necessary in this crazy market?
So good. And when we talk about education on the market too, is we're expecting, will there be delayed negotiations? Will I need to be going over asking, what is it going to take to win this house? How you're going to learn that from your realtor, and you should be able to learn that from your realtor. So don't be afraid to be asking those questions so that you're learning what to expect, and so that you're feeling like, we want our clients when they're walking into the house to be able to feel like, of course, there are going to be things that are going to come up, but that you are really confident that you are educated on what to expect, what is standard in this market. And if you want to, we had a client that reached out that said, I'm looking at 2021, but I just really want to, get kind of a feel. Can you send me a couple properties? Or are there any virtual showings? Or how can I get through? Are there any open houses? So you really can start that process early and starting to see how many properties do match your criteria right now in the market.
That is perfect. Awesome. So that was number 5. Educate yourself on the market so you feel confident and ready to go when we start. Number 6.
The fun part.
Showing and starting to look at houses. So in this new world of 2020 and 2021, there are so many different ways that you can look at properties. There are open houses, there are private showings, there are virtual showings. There are so many different ways that we can get your eye on the property.
We've literally had showings where a seller who wanted to keep everything virtual would walk around the house doing a showing for a buyer on the other side of Zoom or on FaceTime. We are doing whatever needs to be done to make sure that people are feeling comfortable with showings. And so ultimately we can do our job, which is connecting buyers with sellers and sellers with buyers. And so we have gotten very, very creative. So if there's something that allows you to feel more comfortable, never hesitate to reach out, because we probably have already experienced that in 2020. I feel like we've experienced things we never thought we'd experience, but we've already gone through that process, and it's we've got a lot of systems in place to help support that for our showings. People are still doing opens. People are still doing it where it's a public open house, but 9 times out of 10, a lot of the buyers that are out there right now are represented, so we're not seeing that as a priority to have to be hosting it. So of course, if you are starting to look a little bit sooner, that's where that virtual showings, where maybe you're not ready to move a seller out of their house. So the example that we use is we don't typically start showings early on before you're pre-approved or if you're not ready to write that offer, because think about that seller. The seller's cleaning their house, going somewhere for our showing. For us to be able to say, we're just looking, we're just browsing, we would typically direct them to an open house so that we're not creating that inconvenience. But now we have our virtual showings, so we can do that a little bit easier. So that's where no matter where you are in the process, we can find some way to kind of dip your toe in the water and get some market experience.
Definitely. Yeah, starting to look at houses is really, really exciting. And then once we find one that's okay, this is a good fit, then we get the ball rolling on reviewing numbers, creating a strategy, all of that good stuff, which we have really become experts in within this market, where our clients are competing with 15 other offers. And how do we separate ourselves? How do we win those houses for our buyers? And we won a lot of negotiations this year with our buyer team, which is amazing. And it was because the market put us in a position where we either had to learn how to win these offers with different tactics, or our clients wouldn't get the house. And luckily we were able to come up with some really cool ways to help our buyers get those houses. And that was step 6, which was looking at houses.
And
the fun part.
of course we did a Fridays with Friends episode on how to win in a multiple offer situation. Of course we did. So we did that last year in our 2020 video. So if you want to check that out as well. But the key here is, how do you win? Like that, it's when you're educated. It's when you are feeling confident, when you know your numbers, you know your criteria, you have communicated, you're clear on your needs. That's how we can set you up for success, so that your new home in the new year is a process that's enjoyable for you, because it really should be. And yes, there's situations where it's a hard experience, but there are so many times where this can be something that's fun, that's enjoyable, and that is as minimal stress as possible. I know we had a client who said, I didn't know buying and selling a house could be that easy. And of course, behind the scenes, we're doing all these things. We want to make it as easy as possible for you, and we know this is the best steps to do that.
Awesome.
So again, download that freebie that we have below. It is a link that you can get everything we chatted about today. If you want to share it with your friend, share it with someone at work that you might find valuable. We just appreciate you. Fridays with Friends is our opportunity to talk about the real estate market, answer any questions you might have, so that if you or anyone you know have any real estate needs, we would love the opportunity to be you or their realtor of choice.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.